what is it like managing a PhD and a life? Today we're here with Sam Fready. He's a PhD candidate from the University of Wollongong. Hello, Sam. How are you doing?
Hey Park, hi. Very
Thank you
well,
so
thank
much for
you.
your time. Yes. So, it is my pleasure to have you today, and we have met quite a few times in a conference and in some other occasions. So, I know that you're doing a lot with your PhD sidetrack project, publication, and also your life overall as well. So let's have a chat about how do you maintain your work-life balance.
Sure, sure. And before we start off, Park, just want to say thank you for the opportunity. It's really an honor to be here for this interview. And metaphorically speaking, I'm sitting in the same seat as many, many accomplished individuals that you've interviewed before. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. So overall, how do you manage your maintain your work-life balance as a PhD student?
I think that's a great question. And I think that's the one question all PhD students grapple with managing work and life. And just to define what work and life really means for me, on the work front, of course, there is the PhD. I've also, since the start of my PhD, been on teaching slash tutoring teams. Over the past 2 years, I've subject coordinated twice. I'm also working with an industry partner. All of that is on the work front. And on the life front, it's my family, so my wife, and we got two kids, one in preschool, the other one in school. So there's a fair bit happening on the life front as well. And so this question hits home. Managing work and life is the practical realities of everyday life, so as to speak. And I guess step one is what I did, at least for myself, is to identify who are my stakeholders on both the work and the life front. On the life front, like I mentioned, it's my wife, my kids, my family, and with the work front, it's the supervisors, the students that I teach, my industry partner, and once the stakeholders have, so as to speak, been identified, it gets a little bit easier from there because I believe proactive communication, where there's constant communication with your stakeholders and flexibility, both for yourself and within the communication that you're having with your stakeholders, really helps maintain that work life. And if I may draw out an analogy here, I'm thinking of scales, with the balance and the fulcrum. And I think for me, the fulcrum is my non-negotiables. It's the structure on which everything else around work and life is balanced. And for me, on the life front, it's quality time with my kids and my wife. That's a non-negotiable. My time spent serving in church on a Sunday, that's non-negotiable. On the work front, completing my PhD within the deadlines that have been set, or meeting deadlines in meetings, those are my non-negotiables. And I think once we've got our non-negotiables clear, there are clear boundaries, there are clear commitments, and with proper communication, you really crack the code to work-life balance. If I can give you one quick example, my wife is a working professional, and so am I. The last semester, we were just talking about it. I subject coordinated for the very first time undergrad, and I had roughly 300 students in the classroom. So my wife knew way before in advance that I have a busy few months of teaching coming up. And so she took a lot of the load on the life front while I focused on teaching and marking. And at the same time, she being a working professional, there are certain months in the year when she's busy and I'm away. So I'm taking a larger load on the life front. So effective communication with your stakeholders and then having your non-negotiable set.
Yes,
That's for
yes.
me a key.
Hmm. Okay, I think Sam, you touched on a very good point of having a good teamwork with your wife, your partner. It is one of the key to a success of PhD. And you touched in terms of the flexibility of tasks. There are some tasks that is more flexible than the other. There are some tasks that is non-negotiable that you have mentioned in terms of family, in terms of the going to church. And also you also touch about other elements as well. Now, which I actually want to move on to the similar questions, like apart from be flexible, effective communication that you mentioned, and also have a good teamwork to help you, to support you as well. What are some other strategy that you think that is a must have in order for you to organize your time, organize your tasks effectively as a PhD candidate?
Yeah, thank you, Park. I think step one is being self-aware. If I had to analyze myself, and I often do, I'm very self-driven, I'm very motivated. I like to push for things. At the same time, I'm very aware of the fact that I can be a procrastinator. It's an interesting mix. And so for me, my calendar is my command central, and that's one of my key strategies. So any meeting, whether that's on the work or the life aspect, so like birthdays, uh, must take the son to swimming pool lessons. Everything is sitting on the calendar. So my calendar is my best friend. And of course, all my work meetings, everything. 2 days back, my calendar crashed and that was real anxiety. Thankfully, it got fixed again. So I'm back with my calendar. And my calendar is my command central, my best friend. And it helps me with managing my time effectively. And I know it sounds very simplistic, but I have reminders 1 week before for most major meetings. I have a reminder a day before, and then I have a reminder 10 or 5 minutes before. So this sort of helps me with my prep time, helps me to know what's coming, and moving on from there, setting realistic goals and expectations. So if there's something new that comes along the way, do I actually have time to fit it into my schedule? That answer gets, so that question gets answered immediately based on my calendar. And last but not least, I think having a proper support system. So whether that's on the work front with my supervisors, who are an amazing support, whether it's on the life front with my kids, or my wife, really having that support system, where you're accountable and at the same time someone's kind of helping you stay on track helps. And last but not least, I think it's scheduled downtime, just me time. And I managed to plonk that in, just me time, just to hit pause, listen to some music, and relax. That really helps with managing time.
I like the suggestion of the me time. I think everybody needs to have that because it's also relevant to mental health and the
Yeah.
sustainability of how we keep going, which lead to the section that I want to touch, say around burnout. So you still have you can't just stop being a dad. You can't just stop being a parent. And
Yeah.
it's hard for you to not going ahead with your PhD. You do teaching and then you do some volunteer because I noticed I met you some at some conferences like ANSMAC and then you were some volunteer there as well. And you submitted your work to present. So you're actually doing multiple things at the same time. Have you ever get yourself or feel like you burn out? Or if so, like how you gonna fix that?
Right. I should start off responding to this question with a caveat. And the caveat is this: I love what I do. I can tell you this, from the time I began my PhD roughly 2 years ago, there hasn't been a single day, not a single day when I've woken up and been like, oh man, today I got to go to work. Never. I'm always excited and passionate about what I'm doing, and I genuinely love what I do. So that in itself serves as an intrinsic motivation to handle stress and burnout. That being said, um, I still do get stressed and burnt out sometimes. And I think that's where whatever we talked about previously around the work-life balance, around communication, having flexibility, scheduled downtimes, and having your non-negotiable set really help with uh, avoiding some of that stress. And when stress does happen, as it does with almost all individuals, uh, having a support network there. Again, that would be my supervisors or my wife, or the friends that I'm connected to, or the community that I'm a part of, having that supportive network. And I should share one unexpected incident. A few months back, I had this recurring shoulder pain. And so with the recurring shoulder pain, I ended up going seeing a doctor and finally a physiotherapist. And the physiotherapist pointed out that that in itself was a symbol, or a signal of body stress. And I'm like, huh, I did not realize I was stressed because, like I said, I enjoy what I do. But now I've begun to learn to listen to my body. So that goes back to scheduled downtimes, whether that's mental or physical health, sort of taking care of myself. That also then helps with avoiding burnout and managing stress.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for that suggestion, Sam. Now, I met you face to face a few times, and we had some coffee together as well over the conference. Now, you doesn't look like someone who demotivated. You look like someone who being motivated all the time, like happy, smile, full of energy, productivity. And I know that you work on some paper and projects and on all that. Can you share with us like some of what would be some of your motivation to keep you going as a PhD candidate? Or what is a motivation to keep you do so many things that you're doing?
Sure. Um, I think it goes back to the first point around intrinsic motivation. And I'm very passionate about what I'm doing. I'm passionate about my research. I'm passionate about my teaching. I'm very much passionate about the industry partner and the project I'm doing with my industry partner. And in addition to, like you mentioned, the ANSMAC and the volunteering and all of that. So I really enjoy all of these bits and pieces. So my why is very strong, and that why serves as my primary source of motivation, drives me inwards, intrinsically. And I've also often found a lot of motivation. You mentioned ANSMAC, and I think um, that's a good place to start when we talk about external motivation. For me, ANSMAC every year serves as that baseline for pumping me up for what's coming next year. So whether it's conferences or research seminars, engaging with the wider research community, listening to not just people who are in my area or my field, but just all of the brilliant research that's happening outside, and the stories of people is really inspiring. And then from that larger community, talking about close-knit community. So out of ANSMAC 2022, I co-founded a student group, which has now grown to 50 people. We meet every quarter, and those quarterly meetings as well between the ANSMAC doctoral community really serves as that motivation. And finally, I'd like to end that response to stay motivated with my support group. So my wife and my kids are my driving force, and my supervisors and peers on the work side of things really motivate me to sort of keep going. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's intrinsic and extrinsic, both
Yes.
working hand in hand.
Yes, that's very nicely done there, especially how you talk about the family support there, and also you got peer support as well. So the people who know what you're doing, like other PhD candidate, and that the group that you have created. So that's very interesting there. Now, if I were to touch back on, say, challenging challenges that you may or may not face, could be your colleague, like what would be some of the challenging that a PhD student might face during a PhD and how they overcome them?
Right. Talking about challenges, and I'd like to pick two examples, and I think that it can work through talking about the aspect of how I manage them. Um, the the backstory to us being here today and me being here in Australia is we moved to Australia 2 years and 20 days ago. So not too long ago, we left Dubai. Me and my family, we packed up our bags and landed in Australia. And pretty much when we landed here, other than a few emails that I exchanged with people, we didn't know anybody. So zero connections, zero networks. And when we got here, I guess the first sort of, not really a challenge, but a part of the process was settling in. And what I would classify as a challenge was uh, I think 3 months into the program, I was at Wollongong at the uni, and my wife calls me up and says, "Come home immediately. The daycare has called because my daughter had had a febrile seizure, and they had just called the ambulance in to take her to emergency. So she's like, come home now. I'm rushing to daycare." And then she sat in the ambulance, went over to emergency, and I'm driving back like a madman from Wollongong back to Sydney, where I live. And I remember like 100 million thoughts running through my head, wondering, was it a good idea moving to a new country and, just restarting life? And at this point in time, it's just 3 months in the country. So, we don't have too many friends and family to call upon. And how do you manage that? Um, and I guess the challenge was not the situation itself. The challenge was managing me. And in that drive, as I began to calm down and manage myself, uh, I reminded myself of my why. And one of my whys is my one of my core values is my faith. And I had to remind myself saying, God has a plan. I'm here. I'm resilient and I will get through this. And once I had managed myself, managing the challenge itself was pretty straightforward after that. I got to the hospital. Thankfully, the doctor mentioned that febrile seizures are very common in children who are around the 1 year mark. And my daughter was no different, and everything was going to be okay. 2 days later, she got discharged. We came home, and since then, she's been healthy, both the kids. So thank God for that. And it's been great. But I think the challenge there was managing myself. And once I'd managed myself, I could manage the situation better. So I think that's one. The other challenge, because I mentioned I'll give you two examples. The other one was around, I think, just stakeholder management. So with the multiple responsibilities that I have, which is the supervisors, my students, and my industry partner, uh, there could be potential challenges that might come if there's miscommunication, if things are not aligned well. So proactively managing communication and setting expectations has been another way of overcoming challenges, so as to speak. So a strong why, and I have my why, a strong support system, proper communication, and effective time management, I think has definitely helped me manage a lot of the challenges that have come my way, both on the personal front and on the PhD front.
Mm. Thank you so much for the sharing of the story. That's such an amazing thing that many things have happened in the first 3 months, and obviously now it's like 2 years and 21 days that you have mentioned. I'm sure that many things have happened, and when you think back, I think a lot have happened, and I'm pleased that you can overcome those like nicely, and your daughter also recovered and nothing serious happened.
Thank you.
Um, um, do you think, as a PhD student, do you think you have enough resources to do what you're doing or to do what you have to do?
Yes, yes, definitely the answer is yes. Yeah, I don't think I could have managed to do what I do without resources and support systems. Yes.
Okay, sure, that is perfect. Now, let me follow up on that. Um, do you think what would be some of the support or resources that you think is most important to you, and or some of the most important that you have received so far from the community, not just the university?
Sure. Yeah, so starting off with community, I think for me, ANSMAC was a big win. And to be a part of something bigger than me, bigger than my university, to be connected with a broader network. And I specifically have attended the ANSMAC doctoral colloquium twice now for 2022 and 2023. And so as a subset of the ANSMAC larger community, the ANSMAC doctoral community itself has been a strong part of that support system. Like I mentioned, we do now meet in a formalized, structured manner every quarter. So that really helps with the support aspect. And now coming closer to home and in terms of university resources, uh, and I'm sure this is the case for almost every university, there's enough support and counseling and research available, research support available should you choose to take it, and I've done so.
Mm.
And coming in further, there's a supervisory team. Like I mentioned, I have an amazing team of 3 supervisors, and I get guidance from them, feedback from them that helps. And definitely the core of that support structure is my family, my kids, my wife. So the love, the encouragement, the grounding, and the balance that comes out of that. I should add one more to that list, and I believe, Park, you fall in that list as well, which is mentors. And um, and my opinion is mentors don't have to be in touch with you always. You might meet some mentors once a year. You might never meet some mentors in person, but they still mentor you from far away. But
Correct. Yes.
different people that I've met along the journey of my PhD serve in that mentor role, where their wisdom, their experience, their guidance, whether directly or through maybe what they post on LinkedIn, really serves as a resource that I can draw upon.
Thank you for your kind word
Yeah.
there. I really think that your mentor part there, have a mentor is actually very good, and many people that came to this program in the past also talk about mentorship, and also different mentor could be served in a different way. Some of the mentor might not know you, like might not know what you are doing, but know you as a person very well, so can give a recommendation, or might know the area that you're doing. But obviously it's best for a mentor to know both area, like yourself and something else. Like myself, I have a mentor in terms of publication,
Mm.
one in terms of service and leadership, and another
Yeah.
one in terms of broad life aspects and all that. So it's
Amazing.
normal to have a mentor in a few areas, and they can be. resourceful when we need to have like a leverage for job promotion in a different area and ask for that feedback and all that. So that's very good there. Now, Sam, you have mentioned about your PhD groups. If any our listener want to join your groups, probably they might be able to send you an email.
Sure, sure. And we've got some exciting news on that front coming up in the next few months. But yes, email or you reach out on LinkedIn and then we can help with the next steps there.
Sure. All right. I will have your contact information in the description of the videos then so that the people
Sure,
can follow up there. Now, I have two more questions and then we can reflect on other things. So,
sure.
say if your friends or your family want to do a PhD in the future, what would be your advice before they start the PhD? Say a year before they start a PhD.
Right. Great question. And I think the advice there would be to have your why clear first. Why are you doing the PhD? Because the PhD in itself can be a goal, but I think that's a very short-term goal and might not sustain you through some of the challenges that come in through a PhD program. So having clarity as to why you want to do it, and of course, everyone has different reasons, including I've heard someone say, I joined a PhD program just to prove someone wrong because they thought I couldn't do one. I mean, if that's what your why is, so be it, right? But I think having a clear why
Yes.
and uh, personally, when I reflect, I did go through a process because I worked in the industry for a bit. Then I took a break from my full-time job to then pursue a PhD. That's kind of how the PhD idea came about. And when I look back, I think um, paying attention to how you're applying, which university you're applying, who you're reaching out to be your supervisor. So researching that well. So your pre-PhD research really is the strong foundation on which you build your entire PhD after. So um, maybe those 2 points I think would be key in the 1 year before. Have a very strong why. If you don't, then don't join the PhD program yet. And do your research well. Know who you're going to be working with, know the university, know the country or the state, whatever you're picking. And of course, know your topic as well. So all of that pre-PhD research will really help with a successful PhD once it begins.
I think those are some interesting and good suggestion there. Now, if you can go back in time, this is a reflection question. If you can go back in time, what will be the one suggestion you would tell yourself about doing a PhD?
Right. So I think the one suggestion I would give myself is slow down, live in the present, and trust the process, trust the journey. So uh, think slowing down, you don't have to do everything under the sun at the same time. You have enough things, enough time to do everything that you've set out to pursue, and it all works in beautifully. And to take time to focus on what's important in the moment. And I think yeah, that's the advice I would give my younger self as I would be planning to pursue a PhD.
Mm, okay, well said and well suggested there. So this is what is it like to managing a PhD and a life during a PhD with Sam Fready. Thank you so much, Sam, for your time today.
Thank you, Pa. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.